In the not too distant past, a video was made by yours truly in which I demonstrated the power of magic. Specifically, I displayed how lightning struck a tree that was located just a few short feet away from a witch's bottle that I had previously buried for protection. During that period of my life, I was repeatedly assaulted by other witches who did not see eye to eye with my philosophy of balance and creation. It all came to a boiling point when I became convinced that they had sent some rather unpleasant things my way. Fortunately, the bottle caught it all and resolve the matter. Recently, I was driving around to unwind and relax, a favorite pastime of mine. As I was cruising around, I recalled another story from when I first became involved in witchcraft. This was about 5 years after my initial foray into the world of witchcraft. Back then, I was still quite eclectic, but I had the good fortune of being surrounded by a strong witchcraft community in South Florida. I'll never forget the experiences I had growing up, nor the friends that became like family to me in my Gardnerian practice. As I've mentioned before in previous videos, I was not always a Gardnerian. In fact, I spent the first decade of my witchcraft life as an eclectic. I had a small coven that I was practicing with alongside my partner at the time, who held the position of High Priestess. On one particular evening, myself, my priestess, and a dear friend and fellow covener of mine named Giovanni had gone out to see his brother's rock band play at a local rock club. As was often the case, we then headed to either Denny's or IHOP to grab a late night or early morning breakfast, depending on how you look at it. We were all pretty tired and we were looking to call it a night. Suddenly, however, I had a very strong and clear feeling that I needed to go to the beach. The beach was about 20 minutes away, which wasn't too bad, but the three of us were feeling pretty worn out and ready to head home. Nonetheless, this urge was so overpowering that I knew I couldn't end the evening without visiting the beach and seeing the ocean. After some convincing, my girlfriend and then priestess, along with my friend Giovanni, agreed to make the journey down to the beach with me to try to investigate this overwhelming feeling and just why, just had to go. Once we arrived, I walked out onto the beach and enjoyed the wind and sea air, feeling like I had finally satisfied the intense longing to visit the beach, which I had never before felt a strong passion for. Now, it's important to keep in mind that I'm a second generation Floridian born native, and I just don't typically go to the beach. I'm not exactly sure why, but I've never been a huge fan of it. Maybe it's the constant presence of tourists, or maybe it's just not my cup of tea. I love the ocean and enjoy fishing, boating, and scuba diving in it, but if I'm not on a boat, there's really no reason for me to be at the beach, and that's just me, and to be honest, the way most Floridians feel the same way. Nonetheless, we found ourselves standing on a beach, the moonlight reflecting off the water, the wind blowing across our bodies and tickling our souls. It was then that my friend Giovanni spotted something that had washed up on the beach. He rocked over to it. It was all wrapped up in seaweed and kind of garbled over, and peered at it. He's about 50 feet away from us and shouted back that it looked like a small treasure chest. We told him to leave it alone. It was probably just nothing in a bunch of trash, like, whatever trash that washed up. But Giovanni, being naturally curious, grabbed the object and brought it over to us. Upon closer inspection, we realized that it was a small handmade, like a little barrel. Somebody had taken small pieces of wood and attached them to a coffee can, creating this little barrel. The ends were even also made of wood to kind of help seal things up, and Giovanni, he had to pry it open, but he finally got it open. Inside the can was a letter that had been soaked in seawater due to the holes that had been created from the attached pieces of wood. The barrel wasn't exactly the most well-made thing, but it managed to keep the letter intact enough that we could read it clearly after drying it out. The letter was written by a woman who was battling cancer and had prayed to God for help and strength to continue her fight. She was stressed about her situation, especially considering her husband and children, and she had had a dream in which a being instructed her to create this small barrel and to write a letter, including specific instructions on how to seek help. The being had also told her to throw this barrel off the end of the pier and that it would find its way to the source of the help that she needed. Now, I'm not entirely sure what this woman had in mind or what her dream was guiding her to do, but three witches managed to find the barrel and read the letter, which was a plea for help via prayer. Was it just a coincidence that three witches found the barrel when it could have gone anywhere in its travels throughout the seas and oceans, or was it magic at work? Being young and not the most experienced, we weren't sure how to handle the situation. We had always been taught not to work magic on anyone who had not given specific permission. Fortunately, we knew a witch queen in the Gardnerian tradition who owned a store a few miles away from us called the Magical Forest. We took the letter to her and we asked her what we should do since we couldn't contact the lady to ask her for permission to work the magic on her behalf. The witch queen looked at us with a single tear streaming down her face, really happened, and said, "Sweeties, this is all the permission you need, right here in this letter." At that moment, we realized the reality and magic of the situation. This plea for help had come to us, witches, to do our duty and help this person in need. Like the letter said, the being had instructed the woman to create the barrel and letter so that the help she needed could be created and sent to her. The three of us got together and we showed the rest of our coven the letter. We worked some magic for strength, clarity, confidence, and healing, and we sent it out to the universe, knowing that we had helped save a woman's life and her family that evening. So what are the odds that this woman with cancer would be instructed in her dreams to create a message and throw it into the ocean? A message that specifically requested energy and help from the metaphysical side of things, as she was already doing everything she could physically with doctors. Was it just a coincidence that three witches found the barrel and were able to help her, or was it magic at work? I'll let you decide.